Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generations. And today we're going to be covering another installment of Sasuke Shinden, the teacher star pupil. So for those of you guys who stumbled across this video by accident, I recommend going to the homepage, scrolling down to the Naruto novel section, in particular the Naruto novels set in the Boruto era, and you'll want to click on the playlist that's titled Sasuke Shinden. So with all that being said, if you're still here, I'm assuming that you're all caught up on the story events and you know where this takes place in the timeline. So getting right into it, we're picking up right where the last installment left off, and we just had Lily versus Boruto and Sarada, and we had that savage moment where Lily catches Boruto off guard and she releases a lightning release jutsu inside of Boruto's mouth and attacks his insides. And I gotta say, while that was very savage to see, Sasuke taking that moment right then and there to show up, grab Lily by the hand, and basically call her out saying, look at you, you slipped out on house arrest. What exactly are you getting at here? What I love about that moment is that it sets up this scene here that we're going to be discussing here today. So essentially, we find out how far Lily is willing to go for the sake of her mission, as well as just how deep this betrayal runs with Boruto in terms of how he's viewing what Lily did. And I love the fact that what we're going to see here is a throwback to what you saw with the older generation of Konoha ninjas. So if you guys recall, when Hiruzen Sarutobi was the Hokage, before you got old man Hiruzen, back during the era where Kakashi's father was a ninja and it was expected that the ninja must always see through the mission until the very end, and that there was no excuse for failing a mission. You had to see it through to the end, and if you chose your comrades instead of completing the mission, you were viewed as an outcast. That was one of the things that caused Kakashi's father to kill himself. Well, the thing about the cult that Lily is a part of, and her father being the leader of that cult and that extremist faction from the Hidden Mist Village, what we're seeing here is they adhere to that same line of thinking that the mission always comes first. And we're going to see a very brutal example of that in this video here today. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be one of the darker moments in terms of what you got in the Boruto story up to this point in the timeline. So for a bit of reference, this takes place before the Mujina Bandits arc, so think about everything that happened before Boruto versus Shoujoji, and you'll see why I say that this is one of the darker moments in the timeline up to this point in the story. So with the scene and the context finally being set, it's here I'm going to begin reading that passage from the novel. Then I'm going to come back to you guys my thoughts, and it's here I'm going to begin quoting. Lily stiffened. Sasuke's tone was extremely even, but there was a hard edge to it that sent a shiver up Boruto's spine. He'd never seen Sasuke like this before. Lily had just barely managed to hold her own against Boruto and Sarada. Now that Sasuke had appeared, the difference in power would be overwhelming, an unbreachable gap. Even still, she turned bravely to glare at Sasuke. I'd rather die than be your prisoner. Her tone was challenging, but she no longer had any means to commit suicide. Not only had she used every weapon in her arsenal, but she'd been restrained by Sasuke effortlessly. She had no chance at victory. Lily, Boruto's voice trembled. Why would you? Boruto began. Lily frowned and said nothing. She dropped her head, avoiding Boruto's eyes. Boruto clenched his fist. She taught me all kinds of skills, all types of idol stuff. I even maybe thought that she was great. I thought we could be friends. But all that was an act. It was all too much, Boruto thought to himself. There was a sound from the prow of the ship. He turned to see a man who'd been stretched out on the rubber lifeboats, had regained consciousness, and was now pointing a broken handgun at them. That guy, he's awake, Boruto shouted. Boruto jumped at him. But after failing to get off a surprise shot, the man realized he had no chance of victory now. He tossed the gun aside and pulled himself to his feet before spreading his arms and falling backwards towards the sea. What? Another suicide? Boruto shouted. Boruto, don't! Sasuke grabbed Boruto's shoulder to keep him from running over the side of the ship. Boom! A pillar of water shot up and rocked the boat. It's a suicide bomb! Boruto shouted. He looked up at his teacher. He had a bomb on him. Boruto asked. No. Sasuke shook his head. Most likely, he launched a full power lightning style technique inside of the ocean. it would have killed him, Sasuke said. The issue now was that the explosion had been right beside the boat, and the ship's construction just happened to be weakest on its side. A massive fissure ripped through the body of the enormous vessel. The weight of the ship rocked back and forth by surging waves only helped the breach grow in size. The ship was splitting in half right before their eyes. "We're gonna sink," Sarada shouted. "Don't panic," Sasuke said calmly. "The size of this ship, it won't sink if we freeze the entire ocean," Sasuke said. "Huh? Can you even do something like that, Dad?" Sarada asked. A red shadow shot across Boruto's field of view. It was Lily, he realized, but she'd already gotten beyond his reach. Without a moment's hesitation, she jumped into the fissure between the crumbling planks on the deck. "Lily!" Boruto shouted. Without thinking, Boruto leaped into the crumbling interior of the ship after her. End quote. So I know somebody's gonna make the joke, and I don't blame you. So somebody's gonna say, wait a second, Sasuke was holding him with his good arm. Boruto was about to jump over into the ocean right before the lightning release jutsu went off, and Sasuke has to let go of Lily and grab Boruto with his arm because Sasuke ain't got two arms. Sasuke should have took back his arm. I know somebody's gonna make that joke, and if you don't come to that conclusion, I kind of feel bad because now I kind of feel like I'm making fun of Sasuke for only having one arm. But the fact of the matter is that part aside, I really did like the fact that Sasuke, towards the end of this, he's looking at the whole situation. He's like, man, I ain't worried about none of this stuff right here. So we can stop this whole thing from getting any worse if I freeze the ocean. Like, put this into perspective. Sasuke is saying that this ice release jutsu that he has, that is incomplete, and that he says it pales in comparison to anything Haku was able to do. But everybody who sees his ice release jutsu is like, this is a legitimate ice release. Like, you're able to mimic the properties of a Kekkei Genkai. And this is all because of Sasuke's Rinnegan. This is part of Sasuke's training with that Rinnegan. But essentially, he's able to mimic the properties of the Kekkei Genkai and come up with the watered down version of it. But Sasuke's chakra control and his chakra reserves period are just so enormous that he's able to pull something like this off. When Sasuke says that he's going to freeze the ocean, I don't put it past him. And the reason why I do not put it past him is when he first used that ice release jutsu, he froze an entire train car with one jutsu, and it was so crazy, he froze the flames in mid-spread. So it's one of those things where Sasuke's casually saying it, but he's gonna back it up. Now, I like the fact that what you get with Lily right here is that the moment that Sasuke grabs hold of her, she knows she's done. She knows there's no way that she can combat somebody like Sasuke. She was scaling somewhat relative to Boruto and Sarada, though Boruto and Sarada were suppressed during that point. However, that moment where we see how far these people are willing to go in order to see the mission through. So once that ninja realizes that he's going to be captured, he just jumps into the ocean. And instead of like trying to snap his neck or something, he goes down the most brutal fashion ever. So he jumps in the ocean and he shoots off a lightning release jutsu inside the water and electrocutes himself. And the reason why Sasuke was able to realize what was getting ready to happen, Sasuke does have his Sharingan. The Sharingan is able to see chakra as a color, so Sasuke would have seen the guy molding his chakra, weaving his hand signs, and Sasuke would have known, like, oh god, this guy's about to commit suicide. And I will say this, while you might look at that and say it's a bit extreme, I gotta say I respect that right there. The fact that these people are so committed to this cause, that they're willing to go this far in order to see their cause through, that says a lot about that determination. So I personally love that you see that small moment right there. However, I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think it says about this group that they're this willing to go this far for this cause? And then the second question I have, were you like me? Did you laugh at the fact that Sasuke was basically in a situation where Lily escapes because Sasuke doesn't have another arm? If so, hashtag Sasuke needs a new arm down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.